Welcome back to WION World is One. You're watching Speed News with me, Vidul Kathuria. Let's get started. The United States has praised progress made during Ukraine peace talks in Geneva, where both countries released an updated framework that firmly upholds Ukraine's sovereignty. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio led the American delegation, meeting Ukrainian and European officials to advance efforts to end the conflict sparked by Russia's 2022 invasion. The revised plan drops earlier demands that Ukraine cede territory, scale down its military, or abandon NATO ambitions, terms Kyiv had projected. Rubio said Washington is adjusting the proposal based on Ukraine's feedback. President Volodymyr Zelensky called the discussions substantive and said President Trump's team is listening to Kyiv's concerns. Russian forces have launched a major drone attack on Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. Emergency services were seen battling fires and recovering bodies in the aftermath. The city's mayor reported at least 4 people killed and 17 injured across 6 areas hit by 15 strikes. Further south, according to the local government, 2 people were killed in a Russian strike on the town of Marhanets. Ukrainian authorities continue to assess damage and provide aid to affected communities as tensions remain high. Tensions in West Asia escalated sharply as Israel targeted and killed Hezbollah's military chief Etham Ali Tabatabai in a strike on Beirut. The Israeli military confirmed the attack hit an apartment building in Haret, a Hezbollah stronghold. Lebanese authorities report at least 5 people were killed and 28 wounded, while Hezbollah says 4 of its fighters died. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned Israel will not allow Hezbollah to rebuild its power and urged Lebanon to disarm the group. Hezbollah condemned the attack, vowing retaliation. Lebanese President Jules Aoun has called on the international community to take a firm stand against Israel. Former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro told a judge that he tampered with his electronic ankle monitor during house arrest due to medication-induced paranoia and hallucinations. He defended his actions, insisting he had no intention of fleeing. His comments came a day after Brazil's Supreme Court ordered his transfer from house arrest to detention over fears he might flee. Bolsonaro was sentenced in September to 27 years in prison for attempting a coup after losing the 2022 election. He now awaits the outcome of his final appeal against the prison sentence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for urgent reforms to the UN Security Council during his address at the India-Brazil-South Africa summit in Johannesburg. Meeting Brazilian President Lula da Silva and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on the sidelines of the G20, PM Modi stressed that UNSC reform is now a necessity, not an option, and highlighted the importance of IPSA unity amid rising global polarization. Bangladesh has once again urged India to extradite ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. According to Bangladeshi media reports, Dhaka has sent a third formal request to New Delhi. Earlier this week, Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal sentenced Hasina to death for crimes against humanity linked to last year's crackdown on a student-led uprising. Hasina has been living in exile in India since her overthrow. Following the verdict, Bangladesh's foreign ministry said India has an obligatory responsibility under a bilateral treaty to facilitate her return. India says it has noted the ruling but has not commented on extradition. Nepal is heading into a critical election and tensions are climbing fast. 12 more political parties, including the Nepali Congress, have registered with the Election Commission, bringing the total for the March 5th general election to 56, with the deadline closing on November 26th. But as the ballot grows heavier, so do security concerns. The interim government, led by Prime Minister Sushila Karki, has approved the deployment of the Nepali army for next year's polls. acting on a National Security Council recommendation after clashes this week between KP Sharma Oli's supporters and Gen Z protesters. An integrated security plan now covers all 77 districts. Counting of votes is underway in Guinea-Bissau, where voting for presidential and legislative seats took place on Sunday. In towns like Enhakra and Safin, officials publicly displayed and read out results while carefully recording the tallies. The early counts offer a glimpse of voter sentiment. President Umaro Sissoco Embalo is seeking a historic second consecutive term, while his main challenger, Dias, is backed by the party that led Guinea-Bissau's independence movement. A runoff will take place if no candidate secures over 50% of the vote. A close ally of Bosnia's Serb Republican separatist leader Milorad Dodik has won a snap presidential election. According to Election Commission's president, Sinisa Karin secured 50.89% of the vote in a tight race against the opposition candidate. The snap election was called after Dodik was removed from office and barred from politics for 6 years, making this vote a key moment for the political landscape in the Serb Republic within Bosnia. Unofficial results from Pakistan's National Assembly and Punjab Assembly by-elections are coming in. Early trends point towards the ruling Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. According to preliminary reports, the PMLN has swept all 6 National Assembly and 7 Punjab Assembly seats, with PTI-backed and independent candidates trailing. These by-polls were held after seats fell vacant following the disqualification of several PTI lawmakers convicted in cases linked to the May 9, 2023 riots. The suicide bombing at Peshawar's Border Force headquarters has killed 3 paramilitary personnel, with security forces and ambulances responding to the scene. The headquarters of the force is located in a crowded area close to a military cantonment. Earlier this year, at least 10 people were killed and several others were injured in a similar terror attack when a car bomb detonated outside the paramilitary headquarters in Quetta. Slovenian voters have rejected a law that would have legalized assisted dying for some terminally ill adults, with unofficial results showing 53.43% opposed and 46.57% in favor. The law, passed by Parliament in July, was put to a binding referendum following a citizens' initiative led by right-wing politician Alice Prim. The outcome marks a significant decision on a deeply divisive ethical issue in the country. Thousands of people packed the streets of Santiago to watch the city's end-of-year parade of giant inflatables featured beloved characters from TV, film and pop culture. This year's lineup included Harry Potter, Hello Kitty, El Chavo del Ocho, Paw Patrol, Sonic, Batman and Peppa Pig, and more than 13 balloons in total. The 10-meter-tall Harry Potter balloon drew particular attention, lifted by ropes and guided by a team of 40. Hundreds marched in Rio under a giant rainbow flag to mark the 30th anniversary of the city's LGBTQ+ parade. Participants gathered along the bustling Copacabana beach promenade, wearing colourful attire and celebrating under the motto 30 years making history, from the fight for the right to exist to building a sustainable future. Rio hosted Brazil's first Pride Parade in 1995, paving the way for other cities to highlight the community's demands. The movement reached a peak in 2000, with Sao Paulo's parade now considered the largest in the world. Nearly a month after Hurricane Melissa tore through eastern Cuba as one of the most powerful Atlantic storms on record, thousands of residents are still without electricity, clean water, or adequate shelter. According to the United Nations, more than 53,000 Cubans have been unable to return home, with 7,500 still staying in government-run shelters. Despite the extensive damage, Cuba reported no storm-related deaths. This is due to the evacuation of over 700,000 people from coastal communities ahead of the storm. Hurricane Melissa also struck Jamaica, where at least 45 deaths have been confirmed, and its outer bands swept across Haiti, leaving at least 43 people dead. More than 11,000 residents across 7 Malaysian states have been displaced by severe flooding after days of heavy rain. Images show rescuers evacuating people trapped in submerged homes in Tumpat, Kelantan, the hardest hit districts, with over 8,200 affected. No fatalities have been recorded. Flooding is common along Malaysia's east coast during the October-March monsoon, which forces thousands from their homes each year. Thailand's Kok River, a tributary of the Mekong, flows as it has for generations, sustaining farmers, fishers, and riverside communities. But that lifeline is under threat. Research from the US-based Stimson Center finds that more than 2,400 largely illegal mines across mainland Southeast Asia could be releasing toxic chemicals like cyanide and mercury into rivers. Most mines focus on gold, but some extract tin, silver, nickel, copper, and manganese. The Mekong, Asia's third largest river, supports over 70 million people and fuels regional farm and fish exports. Unregulated mining now threatens public health and regional food safety as toxic runoff contaminates water sources for millions. Malaysia plans to ban social media for users under the age of 16 starting from next year, joining a growing list of countries choosing to limit access to digital platforms due to concerns about child safety. Malaysia's Communication Minister, Fahmi Fadzil, said the government was reviewing mechanisms used to impose age restrictions for social media use in Australia and other nations, citing a need to protect youth from online harms such as cyberbullying, financial scams, and child sexual abuse. He said that the government hopes that by next year, social media platforms will comply with the government's decision to bar those under the age of 16 from opening user accounts. Meta is facing serious allegations after new unredacted court filings submitted in a lawsuit by US school districts claim the company shut down internal research that showed Facebook was harming users' mental health. The 2020 Meta project, codenamed Project Mercury, found that people who deactivated Facebook for 1 week reported lower levels of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and social comparison. Instead of publishing the results or doing more research, filings say Meta stopped the project, calling the findings tainted by media narratives. US-based multimedia messaging app Snapchat said that it will offer Australians the chance to verify their age with software owned by the country's banks as the internet platform complies with a teenage social media ban which takes effect next month. Snapchat service said it will start reaching out this week to users, giving them the option to prove they are 16 or above by downloading the application Connect It, which links their bank accounts. Snap said it would also give Australian users the chance to confirm their age using software owned by Singapore-headquartered age assurance provider KID that estimates a person's age based on a selfie or by uploading government-issued identification. As a world-first ban on users under 16 takes effect on December 10th in Australia, YouTube star Jordan Barclay, who has built a company worth $50 million that produces gaming content for 23 million subscribers, says he may leave Melbourne, warning that advertisers could flee the country once the ban begins. Researchers say the impact could be immediate and severe. Creators in Australia earn about 18 cents per 1,000 views and could lose sponsorship if followers under 16 disappear overnight. The ban requires platforms to block more than 1 million accounts, with penalties rising to 49.5 million Australian dollars for systemic breaches. According to a report by New York Times, a major cybersecurity threat has hit some of the biggest US banks, with reports that client data from JP Morgan, Chase, Citi, and Morgan Stanley may have been accessed in a hack on a third-party vendor. The New York Times say the breach took place on November 12th, targeting Citibank, a New York-based technology provider for real estate lenders. The company confirmed a cyber attack, saying information from its systems was compromised and data linked to some clients' customers may also be impacted. The company did not name which financial institutions were affected, but said the breach files included corporate data, accounting records, and legal contracts related to certain client deals. Asian markets opened the week on a cautious footing as investors reassessed expectations for a near-term US Fed rate cut. The Hang Seng rose nearly 2%, while Japan's Nikkei slipped more than 1%. The Kospi traded mixed, with traders showing a reduced appetite for risk after last week's tech-led volatility. AI-linked and semiconductor stocks saw weaker momentum as concerns grew over stretched valuations. Regional sentiment remained fragile, with investors watching for clearer cues from upcoming US data and central bank commentary. Analysts say optimism around AI demand is still intact, but markets may now require firmer earnings evidence before the next leg higher. Japan's early signals from next year's annual wage negotiations point to another strong round of pay hikes, reinforcing expectations that the Bank of Japan may raise interest rates again. Despite export sector pressure from US tariffs, major labor unions are demanding wage increases of 5% or more, matching this year's biggest hike in 34 years. Surveys show 72% of companies plan similar or higher wage hikes next year. Supported by solid profits, a weak yen, and tight labor markets, especially in services, economists expect average hikes near 5%, which would mark a third consecutive year of strong pay gains. The UK government is launching a consultation on a new British industrial competitiveness scheme that could cut electricity costs by up to 25% for over 7,000 manufacturers starting in 2027. The plan exempts eligible firms in sectors like aerospace, automotive, and chemicals from green levies such as the renewables obligation and capacity market. Meanwhile, energy-intensive industries like steel and glass will see network charge discounts increase from 60% to 90% from 2026, potentially saving around $550 million annually. The government says the cuts come without raising household bills or taxes. Sports now, Indian women continue to fly the country's tricolour high. Just weeks after India's triumph at the Women's ODI World Cup, India have now won the inaugural Blind Women's T20 World Cup after beating Nepal by 7 wickets. Opting to field first in Colombo, India restricted Nepal to 114 for 5. India overhauled the target in just 12.1 overs. Opener Pula Sareen was the standout player for India, scoring an unbeaten 44 of 27 balls. KL Rahul has been handed the captain's armband for the upcoming 3-match ODI series against South Africa starting November 30th. Rahul steps in with regular captain Shubman Gill still recovering from a neck issue. Ruturaj Gaikwad and Rishabh Pant return to the ODI team. The wicketkeeper has been named the vice-captain of the 15-member squad. That includes former captains Rohit Sharma as well as Virat Kohli. Frontline pacer Jasprit Bumrah has been rested by the selectors. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella has apologized to Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri after both were disqualified from the Las Vegas Grand Prix for technical infringements. Championship leader Norris had finished second in the race behind Max Verstappen, with Piastri in fourth. However, in the post-race inspection, the skid blocks on both cars were found to be less than the minimum depth, resulting in both cars being disqualified. Norris now holds a 24-point lead over both Piastri and Max Verstappen. BAFTA Breakthrough Fellow Sindhu Srinivas Murthy is set to direct Teacher's Pet. The movie is a coming-of-age comedy set in an all-girls Catholic boarding school in India. The project is being showcased at the International Film Festival of India. The film follows Rinki, an ambitious overachiever aiming to become head girl, whose plans go off course when she finds herself competing against her former best friend. The production is slated to begin in December 2026 in Madhya Pradesh. Day 4 of the 56th International Film Festival of India featured a powerful panel titled A Global India Through Independent Cinema, a women's panel. Actors Rachel Griffiths, Meenakshi Jain and several other influential voices came together. The panel discussed how women's creative and personal journeys are shaping the future of independent filmmaking. The conversation opened with a focus on empathy as a defining force in women-led cinema, touching on challenges, representation, and the path ahead for diverse storytellers. German actor Udo Kier has died at the age of 81. The star was known for his unforgettable screen presence and long-running collaborations with many filmmakers. Kier's eclectic career spanned more than 5 decades, including iconic collaborations with Andy Warhol, Rainer Fassbinder, and even pop legend Madonna. From cult classics like Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula, Kier became known for his distinct voice and fearless approach to unusual characters. Tributes are pouring in from across the film world to honor the legend. That's it on this edition of Speed News. News and updates will continue on the other side of the short break. Keep watching me on World is Fun.